morning, everyone. I'm Susan Ross. I'm the Vendor Development Manager for the City of Atlanta Department of Watershed, and we're very pleased to invite you here today to hear about 2 upcoming projects. We did send out a notice about 1 project, but there are actually 2 projects we're going to discuss today, both of which will go out for bid next week. We apologize for the short notice on the projects, but this has been an accelerated, we're on an accelerated bid schedule, and we just got confirmation that we are going to actually have these projects on the street, and we wanted to give you an overview before they go on the street. So today we are going to hear from the department, from the Office of Engineering Services, and I'm going to invite Deputy Commissioner Eric Glover to come and introduce the projects and the project team. Thank you.
So good morning to the team. And really happy to be able to have this little brief meeting with you to talk about these projects. These are projects that are obviously very important to us, and we, as Sue Ross mentioned, we have a very tight time frame, a very tight construction window, as well as from a city side, we have a very tight procurement window. So we're looking to move very fast with the procurement process, and then of course we need you to move very fast with the construction process. And as people say, some people say, wow, you're looking to do, and Kim Palmer will come up in a minute to give more details of the actual project and the time constraints and time durations. But in effect, we've got a 4-month window to do our construction. So people say, well, that's a lot, but understand, you know, I recall back at the airport, we demolished and reconstructed an entire runway, over 9,000 feet of pavement, almost 2 miles long, in 33 days. So I definitely believe it can be done. It's definitely going to be a challenge. It's going to take all of us working together as a team to pull it off, but I know that it can be done. And I trust that the professionals in this room are more than capable of doing it. With that being said, I want to just briefly introduce my team. If Ade Bond, if you can please stand. Ade, for those of you who don't know him, he's our construction director. He's got 30+ years of construction engineering experience under his belt. We've got Kim Palmer, who is our project manager. We've got our consultant, Mark, I guess the leader, Mark Hillerstadt from our consulting team, who is here as well. Paula Day's in the back of the room. She's our PMO director. I think that's all. Nicole Wilson, who's supporting the project as well, as a project manager as well. So those are kind of our team members. With that being said, at this point, I'll hand it over to Kim Palmer, who's the project manager, who will go in more detail with the project itself. If you have any questions, you can please save them for the end. We'll be glad to answer any questions that we can answer.
I want to talk about first the Southeast Atlanta Green Infrastructure Initiative, Phase 2A, which is the media lot 5 million gallon storage vault. Again, this project helps us to provide capacity relief in the Custer Avenue Combined Sewer Basin. And this project is very significant in that it will be located in the media lot of the Braves parking lot, and we have to complete this project in 4 months, basically in the Braves off-season. So we wanted to have this vendor day to give you an opportunity to go over the scope, and I'm going to bring BGR up in a second. But you know, this project has a very strict construction duration, and so we wanted to go over the scope with you very briefly before we advertise the project. But this project is one of our long-term solutions for the Custer Avenue Combined Sewer Basin. The other project, which has a little bit more conservative construction duration, is Phase 1, which is called permeable pavers. And that project allows us to put a more green infrastructure initiative and improvement in the Peoplestown, Summerhill, and Mechanicsville neighborhoods, which are in Southwest Atlanta. You don't have that fact sheet at this time, but that project will be advertised here shortly along with Phase 2A, which is the media vault. But again, that project has a construction duration that is way more conservative than the Phase 2A, which has to be completed during the Braves off-season. So with that being said, I'm going to bring up our consultants, which is BGR. They're going to talk about the scope for both projects. And if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A session after they are completed. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Hellerstedt. I'm with BGR Consulting. I'm gratified at the turnout. Thank you guys for being here this morning. As Kim mentioned, the Southeast Atlanta Green Infrastructure Initiative is a series of projects that are all working together to resolve and to mitigate the flooding that the city experiences down in Southeast Atlanta. The city undertook last fall the installation of some best management practices to help with the flooding, things that could be done immediately. The next phase was phase 1, and that's the permeable pavers. That's approximately 4.5 miles of permeable pavers along several streets broken down into 3 zones: the Summerhill, the Mechanicsville, and the Peoplestown communities. And that is set to bid in the same cycle as the Phase 2A, the media lot vault. However, it does not have to be completed in the same duration, so it can extend a little bit longer, and it'll follow its own scheduled track. And then Phase 2A is the media lot storage vault. It's a 5 million gallon concrete underground storage vault that'll be built under the media lot adjacent to Turner Field. It is the first of 3 vaults that we've currently envisioned that will help mitigate the flooding. The other 2 are in concept right now, and we're actively in design on those. But because of the time constraints on this one, this is the first that we're rolling out. This vault is kind of bound with some time constraints. You know, with the Braves, the way they're rocking and rolling right now, we expect them to participate in the World Series and, you know, host games through October. So construction could not start until early November. November 1st is what we've targeted, and construction must be complete by February 28th, substantially complete by February 28th. In our minds, and the way that we've written the documents that are going to be coming out next week, substantially complete means that the parking lot is restored to useful, to use as a parking lot by the Atlanta Braves organization. It doesn't have to necessarily have the landscaping, the trees up and all that stuff, but there has to be asphalt down that they can use for parking. So that's February 28th, and then there are 60 days to reach final completion once substantial completion is met at the end of February. With that, I'd like to introduce Steve Bupp. He is the chief engineer that's been kind of working through the hydraulics and working through the logistics of how this is going to be built. And then after Steve, I guess we can open it up for any questions that you all may have.
This is a little closer view of the area we're talking about. It's immediately south of Turner Field, bound on the north by Bill Lucas Street, Little Street on the south, Crew Street on the west, and Hank Aaron Drive on the east. Is this working? So this area right here. This is the site. It's striped. There's just about 500 parking place spots on this lot. Entrances off of Cruz, and there's another entrance off of Hank Aaron Drive, and then it's somewhat open up here on the north side. There are lights, parking lot lights that are in the lot, and other than that, it's asphalt and some landscaping around the edges. Next slide, please. This is the rough footprint of the vault. We are connecting to the 12 by 12 box combined sewer, which goes there, and we're connecting. This is the high point. We're connecting here on Bill Lucas Drive and bringing the excess flows into the storage vault here. The outlet and return and the outlet structure is on the east side, returning the flow to the same vault. There will be a diversion structure in here that will allow storage in the 12 by 12 box sewer, which will then feed the vault itself. Next slide, please. Hydraulically, this is a kind of a view of the Bill Lucas side, the inlet side and outlet side, and just a cross section. It's all working within the grade line. There's no pumping. It's flow in by gravity and flow out by gravity. It's a fairly shallow tank, and as far as height versus surface area to get that volume of storage. The hydraulic grade line at its peak condition. Here's the diversion, here's the downstream, and here is the storage in the 12 by 12 sewer, and then here's where we would take off to go into the vault itself for excess flows. Next slide, please. Demolition is going to be pretty much the whole site. Construction activities obviously will govern that and dependent on how the contractor sets it up. There's oops, sorry, can you go back? Thanks. The site is transected by inverted teardrop combined sewer that provides relief connecting to the 12 by 12 sewer here, and then connects down into other piping systems south. This pipe will be abandoned in place here, removed in place here where it conflicts with the structure, and plugged on the south end. Next slide, please. This is just a view of the vault itself. Rough dimensions, outlet, and diversion structure. Those are the main work items on this project, other than the supporting excavations, dewatering, and all of the things that's going to go into the project. Next slide, please. These are cross sections coming into the vault, and this is a section coming out of the vault. Next slide, please. And just some details on the diversion structures and the connection points. Next slide, please. For restoring the site, we're going to have access points on top of the vault that will be finished at the grade, the pavement grade, to allow access for maintenance in the future. And then more or less restoring the pavement and the striping as it exists today. Next slide. Regrading will be about the same, but it'll be a little bit different. Drainage, for the most part, comes here, and there's an inlet basin here that connects into that inverted teardrop sewer. I think that's the last slide. Oh, okay. That's that I think is for the most part it.
I'd like to amplify some of the schedule concerns that that we have on this project. You know, starting November 1st, ending substantial completion on February 28th is a very tight schedule. Four solid months to construct this facility. The city is prepared to allow the contractor to work 24/7, so you know it can be around the clock operation to get this thing constructed and substantially complete on time. The geotechnical investigation has happened. The report that's issued will be part of the package that's sent out next week, and essentially what we found was that the material is it's relatively soft. It's suitable to bear the weight of the structure. However, uplift is a concern. Groundwater is 10, 12 feet below the ground surface, so groundwater is going to create a buoyant effect on our tank, and so that's going to have to be compensated for in the design. This is going to be issued design build, so the design build entity will obviously have a contractor, structural engineer, geotechnical engineer, and anybody else that's appropriate for the team. With that, I'd like to open it up for questions specifically on 2A, and then we can talk a little bit more maybe about the permeable pavers project as well. Are there any questions about this facility? Yes, sir.
I'd like to know how thick is the floor of this vault?
That's going to be up to the design build engineer, the structural engineer who's responsible for the design of this. We have prepared some conceptual drawings based on the information that we had so that we could come up with some limitations, some constraints that we were working against, but ultimately that's going to be the responsibility of the design engineer.
I know you said the water table is going to be about 10 feet below ground surface. It indicates that this is going to be about 17 to 18 feet deep. Is that correct?
That sounds correct to me. The question was the depth of the structure 17 to 18 feet, and that groundwater is about 10 feet below grade. And I believe that's correct from my recollection of the geotech report. 7? Oh, the groundwater is 7 feet below grade.
Okay. So then that means that you'll probably be doing some extra excavating to get this unit in as far as the material, the dirt. You probably going to excavate about additional 4 feet, put surge stone in, and bring it back up to support that structure. What?
That's very likely, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's very likely that there will be some over excavation to get down to install some sort of a dewatering system during construction, and then bringing the subgrade back up for construction of the foundation. But ultimately, that's going to be the purview of the design build engineer.
So that if you've got a design build engineer and we're going 24/7, is the city has the money in place at this time?
Yes, sir. Yes, the city does.
So the city got the money in place at this time, so we only got 4 months to build that thing, and you get out there in 30 days, you can spend $2 million, and I'll be broke. So how can I keep on going if y'all can't pay on cash? Normally, it takes 35 to 45 days to pay.
Your question is concerning payment from the
Yes.
part of the city. I can assure everyone in the room that the money is in place. It's already in place. The final legislation will be approved on, well, I can't dictate council, but the legislation is in place to be approved on September the 3rd. So as of that date, the funding should be fully in place. As far as our invoice pay-app review time, if that's the question that you're asking me about, for this project, I'm certain we'll probably do it in Contract Manager, which is an older version of our contract management system. We've got fewer software issues with that particular package. Our goal, as stated in our contract, is a net 30. So from 30 days after you submit your pay application, we look to have you paid. I recommend, and normally 9 times out of 10, when we have payment issues, or delinquency in payment, oftentimes is not always the city's issue. Sometimes it's a contractor issue. I recommend highly that before you submit a pay application to us, you vet it with our contract manager to make sure that your quantities are correct. Typically, if the pay app submitted is correct, historically we pay within at least 40 days, if not 30 days. We've had several pay apps we've actually made significantly less than 30 days.
Are there any questions? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Will the bids be due?
The bids will be due 28 days after they're advertised. Advertisement is expected early next week. Yes, sir.
How are you going to handle permitting this particular project?
Permitting is the responsibility of the design build entity. However, the city stands by ready to expedite any permit applications. Yes, sir.
On the design build side, will the city recommend the loading requirements for the structural engineer, or will that be based on the basic prevailing codes?
That will be based on prevailing codes. There will be, as part of the design, there will be a design criteria package that's issued with the RFP that is going to outline the restrictions, the limitations, the requirements. All of those materials are identified in that document. Anything that's outside, that's the design criteria document is silent on, is up to the design build engineer. Yes, sir.
What's the basis of the award? Is it purely price, or is there some qualifications and judgment?
There will be an evaluation criteria that's published in the RFP. Price is obviously a component, as it always is, but qualifications count. A demonstrated ability to meet the schedule in your project approach is weighted very heavily, along with MBE, WBE participation, and past experience and performance on projects similar to this. All of those are spelled out in the RFP that will be distributed next week.
What about bonding requirements?
The question is about bonding requirements, what bonding requirements there will be.
We're going to ask Larry Scott to come up and discuss the procurement issues. If you would focus your questions on the technical issues right now, Mr. Scott will be up after we finish this technical part to talk about procurement issues.
Okay. We'll hold on the bonding question until Mr. Scott can come up. Are there any technical questions that I can answer for you? Well, now seems like a fine time to have Mr. Scott come up.
I'll be brief. My name is Larry Scott. I serve as the Director of Procurement for the DWM division. A couple of things I'd just like to mention. And first of all, let me start by thanking everybody for coming to this accelerated informational session. Before I respond to any questions, the most important thing I want to get out to this group is that once this project enters into the formal procurement process, then we will be entering a blackout period. And I want to stress to you that the team members that Eric introduced at the beginning of this proceeding, once we enter into the formal procurement process, then conversations and questions specific to this project will be prohibited. The procurement document, which will be advertised very shortly, will have an identified contracting officer liaison who will serve as the single sole point of contact for specific questions related to this particular procurement. There was a question as I was on my way up regarding bonding requirements. Those requirements will be spelled out specifically in the solicitation document, again, which will be advertised shortly. I did participate in the team meetings that led up to the development of this opportunity, and it is my understanding that there will be a payment and performance bond associated with this contracting opportunity. But there will be a colleague from the Office of Risk Management that will detail specifically all of the insurance and bonding requirements when we have our pre-bid conference. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that there will be some other colleagues from the Office of Contract Compliance that will detail the minority and female-owned business participation requirements that are associated with this opportunity that the consultant mentioned. I would like to share with you that when this document comes out, there will be a high likelihood that these two opportunities will include a requirement for joint venturing. So to the extent that you have the opportunity to make the appropriate strategic relationships, I encourage you to do so, because when you examine the document, there's a high likelihood that there will be requirements for joint venturing and your participation. And that's what I want to add. Thank you.
The documents are projected to be advertised next week all questions after that time will go to procurement, but this is not, we wanted to present today was an opportunity for you to hear about these projects before the formal period begins. So now we're going to discuss the second project, which is the permeable pavers project.
At the beginning of my talk, I mentioned that there was phase one is the permeable pavers project. I don't have an overhead graphic to present, but we have a presentation board that I'd like to invite you all to come up and see after the discussion that illustrates where the roads are that we're talking about. If you're familiar with the Peoplestown area, it's Ormond and Atlanta Avenue and Boynton and Martin, all in that community there. In the Summer Hill, it's Glenwood and Hill Streets, and in Mechanicsville, it's Central, Pulliam, Windsor, Dodd, and Garibaldi. And I don't take that as a comprehensive list, but just your idea for where those roads are. And graphically, they're shown and illustrated here on this board, and you're welcome to come up after the discussion. That project is scheduled to be substantially complete. I believe it was May 1st, so it has a longer fuse on it. The nature of that work is such that we're going to be tearing out the asphalt pavement, excavating the subgrade down, average 3.5 feet, backfilling with stone, and then putting permeable pavers back as a road surface. The idea there is that the void space in the stone bed serves as a detention volume, and then there will be an underdrain system that will meter that flow back into the combined sewer system. So it will behave as a distributed storage facility underneath the pavement. I think that's all that I'm prepared to talk about on phase one. Are there any questions related to phase one, the permeable pavers project? Yes, sir.
Is this going to be awarded as one contract, or are there going to be multiple contracts awarded for each area?
For phase one is totally separate from phase 2A, so the storage vault will be separate.
Just the permeable pavers.
Permeable pavers will be awarded as a single contract. That's correct. The permeable paver project will be awarded as a single contract. The bid form is structured such that there will be a lump sum price for each road. Sum total is the basis for comparison of the bids. However, depending on where the bids come in and the city's budget, some of those roads may not, the city may elect to issue notice to proceeds on some, but not all of those roads. Are there other questions on phase one?
Associated with the permeable pavers, are you going to have to do anything with the stormwater system that's existing along the roadway, and to what extent would that follow the consent? Will it be exclusively within the roadway, or will it extend to the sidewalks or any other paved areas outside of the limits of the roadway?
That's a good question. The question was, the extent of the permeable paver project. Is it going to go beyond the curb line into the sidewalk area and deeper into the right-of-way? The answer is that the construction itself is happening from curb to curb. The underdrain, the tie-ins between the permeable paver system and the existing storm sewer system will happen at the existing catch basin. So we don't anticipate having to go tear up outside of the road limits themselves. There may be construction activities in the right-of-way, lay-down area, all of that stuff that'll need to be restored, but it's not part of the scope of work for the contractor to install any storm sewer systems or rehabilitate any existing infrastructure there. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Ms. Palmer's going to come back up, and she's got a couple things to say.
Just wanted to reiterate that these are two separate projects, so make sure you're looking for both projects to be advertised next week. We wanted to have this day because the Phase 2A, the media vault, the 5 million gallon storage vault, is most critical in that the construction duration is only 4 months. in the RFP solicitation documents, please make sure that you pay strict attention to the fact that we are allowing you to bid on both projects. However, you will not be able to be awarded both projects. Okay? Is that clear to everyone? All right. And please, if you have any questions on Phase 2A or Phase 1, we want to give you this open forum. Like Sue said, once the advertisement process starts, you will not be able to ask any questions for the project team, from the project team at that time. So are there any questions, any points of clarity that you need on either project at this time?
Is there an engineer's estimate on these two projects?
There is, but we're not open to disclose that at this time.
Is there a bid date set for these projects?
It is.
Can you share those bid dates?
Next week.
Bid date is 28 days after.
Oh, 28 days after advertisement.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. The question was, when is the bid date? 28 days after advertisement is the answer.
The question was, what about the landscaping drawings, erosion control, electrical, the support disciplines that would normally go along with a construction project like this, or the drawings that are required to get permits? And all of that's the responsibility of the design build engineer.
Will the city expedite the permitting process? I'm quite familiar with the permitting process, and that's 6 weeks.
Yes, sir. The city is standing by. They've made commitments to accelerate the permitting process and to make their staff available, yes. Fast-tracked.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
It's clear that Phase 2A was designed and built. Is Phase 1A going to be the same?
Yes, Phase 2A is design build, and Phase 1 is design build also, the permeable pavers. You'll see in the solicitation for proposals on Phase 1, the designs are more advanced. There was utility locates, there was private utility locates done. There was quite a bit of survey work that was completed in the development of those drawings. So you'll see that those drawings, there's quite a few more drawings for those areas than there was prepared for Phase 2A.
As we're wrapping up, I just kind of wanted to move, kind of summarize what we said today to make sure that we're all on the same page. To someone's question about would the city look to expedite the permitting process, of course we will. We recognize this is a very fast-track project, so we're expediting everything in the process, including our procurement process. We talked about a 28-day duration from advertisement to bid opening. That is the state minimum. So we are expediting everything as quickly as we can. As I mentioned before, the full funding will be in place. It's not phase funded. The money should be fully encumbered well ahead of the advertisement, well ahead of the bid opening date. Also, from our perspective, as far as being able to be responsive in the field, RFI questions being responded to, we'll actually have our senior staff available to help you in the field as we go forward. When we receive the bids back from you, again, because this is a design build project, someone asked a question about bid review. We will review your methodology as well as your costs. So there will be a sort of a multiple tier review. If you look at the duration, you're talking 4 months design build. So clearly you're going to have to spend time finishing the design of the project before you start construction, but you have a 4-month window. So the anticipation would be that you will go ahead and begin doing the work that you know you have to do, pavement removal, excavation, things of that nature, while you simultaneously finish your design before you move forward with the vault design, if that makes sense. So we're really looking for you to be creative, to be very aggressive with your construction and your design, as well as we're looking toward our team to be very aggressive to support you 100% along the way. This project will not be successful unless we have a total teamwork event from our perspective and your perspective. So we're looking forward to teaming with you to make both these projects very successful.
Are you all going to provide the CAD drawing and the topo that you have here? in that form?
Yeah, they will be available to the successful design builder.
Oh, not before, but after?
Not before, no.
No.
Yeah, after the design, they'll be available to the successful proponent.
We'd like to thank you for coming out today. These are two extremely important projects for the city. As you know, the mayor made a major commitment to alleviate flooding in the Peoplestown area, and these are the first two projects to come out to deal with the overall infrastructure problem in southeast Atlanta. Please go to the city website, www.atlantaga.gov, next week to see when the projects are officially advertised for bid. I would start looking for them on Monday, and and look every day until they are on there. Yes.
When will you have the sign-in sheet posted?
We can post the sign-in sheet this afternoon. We can post it this afternoon. Okay. We'll post the sign-in sheets this afternoon. If there are any questions for any member of the team, this is going to be your last opportunity to talk to anyone on the team. Once the project goes out for bid, all questions must go through the Department of Procurement contracting officer assigned to this project. We look forward to you all partnering with each other and bidding on this project. We look forward to getting some really exciting, aggressive teams. This is going to be a tight time schedule. You need to do your best work for the city of Atlanta. We commit to work with you in that process, and thank you very much for coming today.